Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Of course, that jingle written by Chuck Lorre.
Chuck Lorre, goat of jingle writers. Goo.
Yes.
As you just discussed the villain origin story of yet another animal in your hood, today we're gonna be talking about a not so great villain origin story. It's one of the weak points of the movie.
I am, and we'll talk about more in spoilers, but I'm curious if they wanted to go in a different direction.
Okay. All right. That's fair. And if you don't know what we're talking about today, just look to Goo's wall for a context
to the
clue
side
here. We are speaking of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Just came out this week, a Wednesday release. I actually was able to see it on a Tuesday afternoon, a Tuesday
$5 Tuesday
noon, $7 Tuesday now.
Yes.
But
wow.
The good old
Inflation.
days, Yeah, of course.
It's the economy.
Interesting theater I saw it
Joe
with.
Biden, man. What are we gonna do?
I thought I was in for a hellacious theater experience. I had two 12, 13-year-old kids sitting behind me the whole 15 minutes prior to the movie starting. They were talking, making noise. I was getting ready to just turn around and start swinging, teach them a lesson, but they shut their fucking mouths once the movie started. So we were good. Goo, this movie is a PG-rated animated action and adventure with a runtime of 99 minutes. Pretty quick in and out. On Rotten Tomatoes currently, 95% from the critics, 94% from the audience. This is very early. I don't think it's going to drop much, but I think it's going to settle in around 90.
I would say more around 92. Now, Metacritic score-wise, I'm actually surprised by the 74.
Higher or lower, did you think?
A little bit lower.
Oh, okay. I think the critics really like these off the beaten path animation styles. This is made to look like a comic book and not so much of a way as the two Spider-Verse movies. It's a different animation, but sort of the same idea where it's more artsy.
A lazy take is to just compare it immediately to Spider-Verse just because they're different animation styles, because the animation styles aren't the same.
No, and that's what I said. The very first trailer we saw this movie, I was like, they're trying to do that sort of thing, but it's different. The animation style in Spider-Verse is more neat than it is in this. And this is purposefully a little more messy. And it fits the subject matter a little more.
Absolutely.
Too, with Mutant Ninja Turtles. Goo, this movie is written by, I'm going to name them out real quick and then we'll name what they did. Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg, Jeff Rowe, Dan Hernandez, and Benji Samit. Of course, we know everything Rogen and Goldberg have done. They've pretty much been working together for the last 15 or 20 years now. I actually learned today as I was looking stuff up. Seth Rogen got a writing credit on Declared, which he was also in. And these two worked together on the Ali G show.
Yeah, Jonah Hill also. It's actually where they know that. Yeah, it's where they cut their teeth.
That's a nice little fun fact right there. And of course, we all know them from their big break on Superbad. Dude, Jeff Rowe is also the director of this movie, one of the two directors. He's the writer on that Gravity Falls television show. It's been around for a few years. He's the writer on Matt Groening's Disenchantment. That show sucks.
I don't care for that.
That's a bad show.
Yeah.
And he was also a writer on the Mitchells versus the Machines. And I think thematically, this has a little bit in common with the Mitchells versus the Machines, which is why I think they got this guy.
Absolutely. I would say that it is it's close to being family friendly if your family is a little bit older.
Yes. Which is this is a kid's movie, but it's not for 6-year-olds. It's more for 10,
this is really tough for me because my plan was to bring my 3-year-old son to it. And then I saw it and I said, I don't think this is for him.
I don't think he's going to get a lot out of it. Yeah.
No.
It's an interesting audience there. And the last two writers here, Dan Hernandez and Benji Samit, they've been a writer duo for, as far as their IMDb credits say, they wrote an episode of The Tick, that Prime show that was actually okay, the reboot. Yep. They wrote Detective Pikachu and The Addams Family 2. And of course, all of these characters are based on the comic books by Kevin Laird and Kevin Eastman. And who's Laird? What's Laird's first name? Peter?
Pete. Yes, Peter.
Peter Laird, Kevin Eastman.
And they have their Easter eggs in the movie, of course.
Yes, which they do good nods to. This movie's directed by Jeff Rowe and Kyler Spares. Jeff Rowe's only previous direction was The Mitchells versus the Machine. So he's without a doubt 2 for 2 now. I think he's going to get a lot more of these types of movies. Kyler Spares is one of those guys that they're sort of grooming to be one of the next animation type directors. A lot what Pixar does. Previously, he had just been a storyboard artist on some of these movies, like Mitchell's vs. the Machines. He also worked on Minions: The Rise of Gru, so he'll probably get a solo project at some point. Synopsis.
Yes.
After years of being sheltered from the human world, the
Whoa,
turtle...
do that again. Years of being sheltered?
After years of being sheltered from the human world, the Turtle Brothers set out to win the hearts of New Yorkers and be accepted as normal teenagers. Their new friend, April O'Neil, helps them take on a mysterious crime syndicate, but they soon get in over their heads when an army of mutants is unleashed upon them. Now,
okay, so hold up. You hit the wrong oidal. So you said Turtle Brothers.
Yeah.
You're supposed to say Toidle Brothers.
No, turtle.
I'm going Toidle.
Yeah, all right. I'm just trying to be as annoying as possible.
Like
and she made me stop and re-say that again.
I'm going to make you stop and do a lot of puns.
I grabbed that synopsis from Rotten Tomatoes because the IMDb one is really bad. It started with the film. So I said, yeah, I'm not using that one.
It's a movie.
This movie stars Micah Abbey as the voice of Donatello, Shamon Brown Jr. as Michelangelo, Nicolas Cantu as Leonardo, Brady Noon as Raphael.
I'm out right there. So those 4 young actors, young voice actors.
You only get 6 timeouts during this podcast.
All right, so that's 1, right?
That's 3.
I've done 3 already? Holy shit, I got to start holding those. How many challenges do I get?
You get 2 challenges as well.
Okay, what if I get them both right?
You can get a 3rd.
Okay, so those 4 young voice actors, great job.
Knocked
it out of the park. They brought them to life, and I think they might be the highlight. And also how the Turtles are written and how they talk over each other. I absolutely loved it.
I think the best thing about this movie is they actually leaned into the teenage part, which, I mean, there's a couple Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies I haven't seen or releases I haven't seen, and they don't do that. So I'm glad they kind of took the opportunity.
And also the one going into it that I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to love would be Donatello's more high pitched voice. And he did a great job. Yeah.
Within context of the rest of the Turtles, the roles were all pretty played out well and the voices were very good. Edibiri is April O'Neil. She is the woman from The Bear that you would know. Maya Rudolph is Cynthia Ultram. John Cena is Rocksteady. I think there was 2 bad jobs done in here by the voice cast. He was one of them.
They should have used his real voice.
It was just not good, especially in contrast to Seth Rogen as Bebop, who obviously was great. He probably, in large part, wanted to do this movie so he himself could voice Bebop. Rose Byrne as Leatherhead, Natasha Demetriou as Wingnut. You would know her from the female vampire from What We Do in the Shadows, the show. Giancarlo Esposito as Baxter Stockman. Wish we got more of them.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of the bigger issues. I don't have a ton of issues with this movie, but one would be he is dream casting. He is the perfect, if this was live action, he would have been the perfect Baxter Stockman, but we don't get enough of him. And what we do get for a villain is another Fly, to the point of like, I wish we got the Baxter Stockman Fly.
Very confusing for someone. So you obviously, you're fucking elbow deep, ass deep in turtle lore. I don't know shit about like turtle villains other than the ones we've already seen on the big screen. So this was a little confusing at first. Not when I was watching the movie, but when they first started releasing details. Jackie Chan as Master Splinter.
Loved it.
Real roller coaster of a performance, personally. I was thrown off at first, and then by the end, he had won me over. I liked it.
I absolutely loved it. And not to spoil anything, but this Splinter is a New York rat.
Yes.
And he is like, he's one of the first Asian men to actually play Master Splinter, to actually voice. And usually in the comics and the animations, he is of Japanese descent, or a Japanese man that gets turned into a rat, or his owner is a Japanese man. This one, it almost doesn't make sense that Jackie Chan is voicing him.
All right, so you bring it up now, even though we had this down the spoilers. It shouldn't bother me, again, because it's an animated movie about mutant turtles, goo. But because they choose the origin story that they do, that he's just a random New York City street rat, it makes no fucking sense that he has an Asian accent. And beyond that, because they choose the origin story that they do, it makes no fucking sense that the 4 turtles don't also have Asian accents since they were raised by an Asian rat goo.
Right. But when I asked when I spoke with Paul, I'm blanking out, Rob
Giamatti.
Paulson. No, when I spoke with Rob Paulson, who is the original voice of Raphael, and I brought up to him, hey, why are you more of like a Brooklyn accent? And Michelangelo is a Californian. He said, don't ask stupid questions. So
that is for sure overthinking it. But
yeah,
because the movie puts it so front and center, it's hard to not think about. Our final 4 voice actors here, Goo. I'll do the 3 good ones and the one that I really, really didn't like. Paul Rudd as Mondo Gecko. Absolute delight. Even as a voice, he was so good.
Yeah.
Post Malone as Ray Fillet, which I thought was a funny little character.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get much screen time, but did a good job. Hannibal Buress as Genghis Frog. Underused. Hannibal Buress is almost always underused.
Mm-hmm.
And then Goo, finally, the villain here, Ice Cube as Superfly. Hated it.
I didn't hate it. It was just too much of him being Ice Cube. And he also quoted a bunch of rap songs, which was kind of off too.
All right, let me walk it back. I didn't hate it because it didn't ruin the movie for me. No. I did not enjoy it.
No, I mean, my only issue with the character is that if you're going to give us a fly villain, give me Baxter Stockman.
To have 4 minutes of Baxter Stockman in this movie and 87 of Ice Cube, it was bothersome. It was definitely bothersome because Giancarlo Esposito can just do himself and it's menacing. The Ice Cube, I don't know. I just didn't like Ice Cube as a selection here. I don't know why they went for it.
I didn't mind him. I thought he was funny. I thought he was good. It's just that if you're looking at the hierarchy of the voice acting in this movie, I wouldn't have him at the top. And also, just once again, if you're giving me a mutated fly, give me the mutated fly.
All right, Gil. Let's hear if someone is not a big fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, tell me the reason why they should go see this movie.
This, although it is weird, it is made to be consumed by a mass audience. It is made to not just appeal to the turtle fan. They shave off some of the rougher edges that, might not, people might not like. And they make it really so that anyone can just jump in. It's pretty good humor. I was not expecting it to be this funny. And within a PG rating, they kind of push as far as they could possibly go, action-wise, violence-wise, and comedy-wise. So I think it really is. It's made for the widest possible audience with these types of characters.
I would say for that same audience, if you have a child from the ages of like 8 to 14, they're probably really going to enjoy it and you might get some enjoyment out of it. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, though, on an adult level, an adult
should I turn this off and you can just talk to me?
I was a little disappointed being that Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg wrote it, who's given us some of the funniest comedy stuff for the last 20 years.
R-rated comedy, but go ahead.
Well, sure, but she could have done a PG-13 version of this movie because it probably borders on that anyways.
But you need the PG to then get the extra younger.
Sure.
Yes.
I was just disappointed with the lack of adult humor in here, even though half of the audience, probably at least, are going to be people that grew up on this stuff. So I felt like there should have been more adult-oriented jokes along the way.
I think that for being in the frame of PG rated, I think they knocked it out of the park.
Okay, but my counterpoint would be I don't want to see PG movies.
Right, but you need the PG movies, and we've talked about this, is that if you want something a little more adult, if you want a Last Ronin, say, either out of the theaters or in the theaters, you need things like this to do well to then fund those.
I am at and this is later down too, but I guess it works now that we're talking about it. I'm at the point where I'm starting to hate, again is not the word. How many turtle properties are we going to get before I see Leonardo chop a head off with a sword?
We were close in this.
We were close. Yeah. They
use their weapons. Yeah,
they show some swings, but and that's where I was like, maybe if this is PG-13, it would have rocked because there would have been maybe some blood splatter. This was close to being a movie I really liked. Instead, I just enjoyed it. I think it's a good movie. I think most people are going to like it. But me personally, I think there was like when they could have gone to 9 or 10 in some aspects, they stuck at a 6. They played it conservatively.
I mean, also in the next movie, by the way, there will be sequels. They've already greenlit a sequel. Also a series, which count me in.
Like a television series?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that, you're going to start seeing more of the other characters, probably some more robots moving forward.
Oh,
And if there are robots, Leonardo will cut their heads off.
okay. I mean, that's
He
better.
probably won't cut a human's head off. That's probably they're draw the line at that.
So that's my argument here. Everyone go see this, so it makes $1 billion, and then we get an R-rated version of the Turtles.
I want an NC-17. I want a XXX non.
I want to see
parody.
Leo and April get it on. Go!
Yes.
There have been 6 cinematic releases of TMNT movies, including this one.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 6, where would you rank this one?
I would put it number 2.
Number 2.
Of the theatrically released
So
TMNT movies.
That is the first 3 live action ones. 1,
Mm-hmm.
2, 3, Secret of the Ooze, and then what's the third one called? I think it's just called 3.
It was supposed to be Turtles in Time, and they're like, fuck it, we don't care.
Then we also got TMNT in 2014. The Michael Bay one, followed up by Out of the Shadows in 2016. Those did okay, but not they definitely weren't.
The second
loved.
one did not do enough to get a third movie.
Even though the second one rated better, it just didn't make
the second
as much
one.
Money.
They tried to give you more fan service, but they had so much of a bad taste in their mouth. The viewers, a bad taste in their mouth from that first one, which hurts my eyes.
Yeah,
that people are just we don't care.
And then there's also been another animated release that was 2007's TMNT.
It's not bad. It's pretty good.
That oddly did not rate well though. But there's also this thing. So, and if you're a Turtle fan, maybe just turn off my audio segment of this podcast because you're probably gonna align more with.
Instead, I'll replace you with Vanilla Ice's "Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go."
Because I'm coming from this as more of someone who liked the Turtles. You know, I like the toys, I like the first movie, I like the video games, but I am no means a Turtle boy like you. And so, like,
I run a website. Correct.
I have never seen the 2007 movie because, again, I'm not as interested in animated.
It's on and off Netflix. When it's back on Netflix, I'll tell you.
And speaking of Netflix, there has been 2 non-theatrical releases regarding the Turtles. That Batman vs. TMNT, which you really liked, one of your favorite movies in 2019.
I love that movie. I would say if you're counting that might be my second favorite.
Okay. And then Netflix also released a TMNT movie called Rise of the TMNT last year, which I also haven't seen.
Which has a really cool story. I just don't like the animation.
Okay. I think it's been rated pretty well, actually, too.
Yeah, no, it's really, really cool story. A lot of going back in time.
Would you say, even if you rank this third, would you say that the live action one, the first one, 1990, Batman verse, and then this are all in the same tier?
No, I would have 90 way, way above. But once again, I was born around that time and I grew up with it. And it was the first time, like I still have just etched in my brain, the first time you saw the 4 brothers go around the corner of that sewer and you're like, holy shit, they brought them to life.
As much as I think you like that movie way too much, I too would still have that above this movie because it is more adult oriented than this. And that's good. That's really my takeaway from this is my smidge of disappointment in a Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg production written thing that doesn't have like any adult humor.
I thought it was good humor. I thought they did as much as they possibly could with the PG and also being able to tell jokes within a certain restraint. It makes it's harder, but it's a better payoff.
Meh.
I know. You just want to hear swears, which we do hear in 1990. First time you heard damn.
Damn.
Also,
damn.
Casey Jones was in that movie.
Oh.
He murders Shredder.
We'll wait for some spoilers on that.
Yeah.
Let me not jot that down because we don't have that.
The final battle in 1990 puts the final battle in this just to complete shame.
Yeah, but that's because there's no... I guess this is a tad bit.
It didn't have the emotional stakes that 1990 had.
Just not using Shredder at all in this movie sort of makes it like it's. What's the word I'm looking for? It sort of kills it before it ever starts. Because at the end of this movie, you're like, all right, this is fine. They got to do this or whatever. But we're like, where's Shredder? Let's get to Shredder.
All right. So also before we get into our octagon, our gauntlet here, Mac, I also, once again, want to give credit to the people that selected the voice actors of this
movie. There's
a
part of that in the gauntlet, Goo.
Well, let me just say this, though. I'm going to compare it to something. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
Back in 1996, Nickelodeon had a little show called
Sure.
Hey Arnold. What was revolutionary about this show is generally when you were picking voice actors to do young boys, to do children, you would have older women do it because then you can have them on the show for as long as you need.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Arnold had actual children voicing the kids.
All right.
They would
How about that?
recycle through a couple different iterations of each of the child, and they would reuse them as different characters. But you got that youthful joy because you had actual kids doing it.
Hey,
This movie
Arnold.
had the same.
Nope, that's fair. I think that's definitely fair. That's a nice little tidbit about Hey Arnold, which I did not know as well. Again,
Mhm.
I think the strength of this movie is the four voice actors they chose for the four turtles and
Mhm.
their sort of dynamic.
Because not to give anything away, but my favorite parts of the movie, I think I might have already said this, and I'll say this 4 more times. I get 4 more repeats, right?
Yes.
Is I just love them talking to each other and hanging out together.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah.
All right, Mac, how about the octagon here or whatever we call it nowadays? Fun factor, and it snuck up on me with how funny it is.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe you're just lost in the sauce here. I think you're
I'm drunk.
conflating fun and funny.
It was fun too.
This movie's very fun. I wouldn't say it's very funny. I thought that there were some ha-has in there
Mhm.
and the adventure's fun. There are some laughs along the way, but I really only laughed out loud a couple times, and I was more so waiting. Now, this is my own expectation, but I also think this is the expectation of anything Seth Rogen does. I was waiting for a couple of those more PG-13 R-rated type jokes, even just snuck in there or alluded to. So for me, it just funny wise, it didn't hit the mark, but this movie is very fun.
Satisfactor, and I think it sets up something super satisfying. But if you're looking at just the ending of this movie, not the most satisfying for me. Like, it definitely bookends what they're trying to accomplish, but it also is kind of goofy.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of a lackluster climax. You sort of like, you're like, all right, let's finish it up already. But it is satisfying to watch them reach their goals at the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, so the very end is satisfying, but the climax and the big moment in the film, not that satisfying.
Also, there is one really good action fight scene in this. Could have used one more.
I agree. Could have used another one.
Borometer, and it does tick for me after we meet the other mutants.
I think this is gonna have a tough time. Well, so I've been thinking about this too, because I think this is probably the best kids movie of the year.
Okay.
But there's also like Super Mario. I think a 4, 5, 6-year-old, your own son who's 3, just recently turned 3, was watching that over and over. For
Wider
weeks and
age
weeks.
range, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to have that same appeal. So it might wean a little more than that did. At the same time, a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old is going to like this more than Super Mario.
All right, so we just talked about the Halloween. Will it wane over time? And I mean, I have it pretty high right now, and it could. And not, I already said, we don't need to compare it to Spider-Verse. They're two different things, but I think people will automatically go to that. And I still think Spider-Verse is better.
Oh, way better. I think we're more talking in Super Mario territory. This is because I think we're neither of us loved Super Mario, but that did its job. It got in and it got out.
Yeah.
It's not as creative as this, and the animation is completely different. But the animation is on the opposite end of the spectrum there. It's so crisp and whatnot. Like, to me, this film, I mean, maybe the team dynamic, I'll give you that. But it's not like this film has many memorable things, just like Super Mario didn't have many memorable things.
I would argue against that.
Well, what's memorable about the movie?
Them on top of the building talking to each other after. So the entire stretch.
Yeah, stretch is a good word, because what you're saying is a stretch.
No, what I'm saying, though, the entire stretch of them going into that fight, taking down the 4 to 5 crime bosses, and then when they leave there and they're just talking to each other, and April's like, hey, let's record you guys talking. That conversation right there is super memorable.
Yeah. Okay. This is closer to Super Mario. That's all I'm saying.
I think you're wrong. Credit union. And I would like to give some credit to Seth Rogen for going with the teenage focus.
Yeah. I think, again, these 4 child actors, teenage actors, did a great job.
Pants 10 City, Excite Bike Mania. And what got me going was the fight scenes and the brothers.
to me, it's devoid of a pants tent. It could have used one like real great moment. There are a couple nice fight scenes in here, but it's devoid of a pants tent.
For those of you tardy to the Mac and Goo party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system. And Mac, this is heartfelt. It's family friendly. It's family friendly, kinda. It's very, very funny, and it's elevated by the score done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. It was very Stranger Things like, right? Is that what you heard too?
Yeah, it was. They did a good job combining like synth and spookiness, which is right up the Stranger Things alley.
I love the voice acting. Jackie Chan, the four Toidles. It also pushed the PG with the violence. And once again, it's at its best when the four brothers are on the screen together. April didn't really bother me. I don't love this portrayal as like the sarcastic, like overly sarcastic character. Not my favorite, but she was fine. It didn't bother me. The origin story, which we'll get more into in spoilers, not my favorite, but they opted for humor over the more serious tone, which I do like the serious tone of the origin that we've had in the past. You can still have fun with it, but they got a little goofy with it here. And then just a bit of the lull at the end of the second act, early third act. That's my only big complaint here is that big lull. So while I'll always like the 1990s movie better than anything else that's ever made, it's the best movie. It's an instant classic. This is a welcome addition to the TMNT catalog. I have it at 35 hot dogs.
All right. Yeah. I think that you being a turtle boy was always going to like this movie more than me. And I'm totally fine with that. Dude, this movie is a ton of fun, especially for its target audience. But I do want to stress that I don't think I'm a part of this target audience. There's a ton of jokes during the runtime, but most of them are geared for that like 10 to 14 audience. Not nearly enough humor for the adults. And I thought there was plenty of opportunity to sort of let that leak in there. They definitely played it a little too safe, but maybe that's how they got this movie made in the first place. There is a really good message in here for the young audience about being yourself and eventually people accepting you and or praising you for that and sticking to your guns sort of thing. I think this is a good introduction to the property, to TMNT, for youngins that maybe had never really dabbled before. Some bad things or some things I didn't
actually,
like.
Before you talk anymore, shut the fuck up. They do something, and actually they might be doing something here where like they have the younger voice actors who will obviously get older as these movies keep going. Do you think they age up the content as the voices also get older?
They probably won't, but that would be a good idea.
I do think that it'll at least stay flat, if not get a little bit more. It's not going to regress like 1990s into Secret of the Ooze, where they completely nerf them.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
and again,
I'm sorry. Hey, that was my last time out. Actually, I have 2 left.
Again, I really didn't care for that final showdown versus Superfly. It didn't hit for me. I also don't really like, and this is a bit of a spoiler. I'll be as light as I can with this. I didn't really like that at the end, all of the mutants are where they are.
No, I agree. I agree. And I'm curious what they do
that
in the sequels to either separate that or fix it.
Yeah. Again, one of these days I'll watch a turtle property where Leo just chops someone's head off in a stone cold fashion.
I can draw it for you if you want. I got a bunch of drawings in the back.
Again, this is probably the best kids movie of the year. I liked it more than the Super Mario Brothers movie, but it's not that far off. You could say Across the Spider-Verse, but I think Across the Spider-Verse has more of a crossover adult and kids, so I'm fine with that as well. I have this at 32 hot dogs. It's my 14th best movie of the year. Just above it is Tetris and No Hard Feelings. Yeah. Just below it for me is Blackberry and the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, so I have it bunched up. So at 35, I have it bunched with GOTG 3 and with Mission Impossible 7. You could say any of those is at 5, any of those is at 7. Okay. But they're just outside my Mount Rushmore.
Fair enough. And your Mount Rushmore is?
It is Oppenheimer, Spider-Verse, John Wick, and Air.
Okay.
Ready to spoil?
Let's do it.
Spoilers. And let's get to the origin first. And it's funny, like the way that they go into that montage of they learned it from watching videos. Like it's a funny idea. It's just that with these turtles, I want them to be experts at ninjutsu. I don't want them to just be, you or I playing with a sword.
Yeah, so that was really goofy and interesting because then it's hard to buy them as actual ninjas. And number two, like that was the opportunity for them to do some more adult oriented humor. And I was just like, all right, this VHS stuff is okay. Like that's pretty low on the bar for laughs. Like I like the idea of it more than I like the execution.
Like once again, it's a funny joke. It's just that and also Splinter needs to be a master. He needs to be Master Splinter.
Yeah.
And while it is like, okay, he's just trying to protect his family, I would prefer him to have already had this knowledge, not like, okay, we now need to protect ourselves. Let's go to a self-defense class.
Which would make more sense if even just Splinter's origin was that a fucking karate master owned him, and then eventually he that was a simple fix.
Yes, which is what the 1990s was. Or if you go to the animated series where he's a man first and then he gets mutated into a rat, either one of those I would take over this. But I would take this over the Tony Shalhoub version.
Goo, I really liked the dynamic amongst the turtles, like we talked about.
Yeah.
But I particularly liked how it was them essentially teaming up on Leo, because Leo's the goody two shoes. Leo's the leader. He's trying to be a leader while still trying to
growing into his leadership too. Yeah. He's not already there where he's like this stoic leader.
Right.
He needs to, and by the end, he does grow into it.
And I liked how they call him Batman. He's trying to do that shit. And I like that. I like the balance they try to work with there. Him trying to remain cool and friends with them, but while him also still trying to be a leader.
Right. Yes.
I have another question. I guess we could have done this in spoiler free. Did you like that they have now, this is sort of the canon for Turtles now, they maintain that the 4 looks sort of echo the 4 personalities?
Absolutely. And what I like about this one is that they aren't so outrageous. Like in the rise of TMNT, it's, like Raphael's fucking giant and Michelangelo's tiny. And then in the Bay version, they're also different and they also have way too much shit on. They're like Carl Havoc out there. Yeah. This one, they're different, but not by a ton. Like Raphael's a bit bigger. Michelangelo's a bit smaller. Yeah. Donatello is a bit thinner, and Leonardo is the mix of all 3.
Right. No, I think it's when they first did this shift, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, a lot of people didn't like it, but I actually like it, and I'm glad it's stuck.
Even in the fight scene, you see that Raphael has the power, and Michelangelo is lightning quick.
Right. No, it's a good
point. I absolutely love that. What I didn't love, it was a nice conclusion to the movie. They're accepted, but them at the high school is kind of weird, right?
It's absolutely jarring to see these turtles, even the animated ones, without their headbands, masks. It just looks fucking weird, dude. I don't want that. And I think it's weird going forward too, right? Like for future turtle stories in this universe, that's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, because what I was hoping is in the 3rd act, everyone's like, oh, the mutants are bad. They're all teaming up against the city. And although you got the people on your side, which I also didn't love that. That's very Spider-Man-like.
Yeah.
Where the New Yorkers, the tough New Yorkers are here.
Hey, Rat, do you need help?
Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of that either. But I still would have liked it if maybe they were in the shadows for one more movie.
A little more anonymity, for sure.
Yes,
I think
because once again, they're ninjas and they're supposed to be living in the shadows.
There's only so many living turtles on the planet. Now they sort of poke fun of it at the end. The evil lady there, she's like, oh, now they're super easy to find because they're just going to high school.
Yeah. Ultram. But so I really like Jackie Chan, but we've already talked about it. There's no real reason for him to be here, but he does add a ton of life. And there's a joke that they start at the beginning of the movie of there's no adult mutants out there. I've been looking around. I can't find them anywhere. And then at the end, they pay it off with him making out with Scumbug.
That bug was yucky. I didn't like that. That was, I don't know what it was. It didn't.
Also, speaking of jokes, the joke set up at the beginning of they're going to get you and they're going to milk you. Yeah. And then also Raphael going, we don't have nipples. Yeah. And they set it up 2 or 3 times. They bring it up 2 or 3 times. And then finally, they're in a giant milker.
Yeah. I don't know what I thought the milking machine would look like, but it was going to look different if I was going to draw it. Decent little payoff there.
That's a great payoff because let me explain the joke to you.
Oh, okay. All right, here we go.
They milked the joke.
Mm-hmm.
And also, they're getting to the point of they're milking this property.
How would Splinter know what milking even is?
Well, he has nipples. Have you not seen Meet the Parents?
Yeah, maybe they just watch it on repeat in the
Mhm.
sewer there. Goo.
Yes.
We talked about this. You brought him up
Mhm.
in the spoiler-free section. Where the hell are they going to bring Casey Jones into this whole mix?
That is a great question. Maybe in the next one, he is a vigilante who still thinks the mutants are bad, and he needs
Okay.
to try and keep them in check. I do have the question of, do you try and age April up in the next one? Because I don't want a high school Casey Jones. I want him at least in his 20s.
Well, I was going to say that it seemed like there was an easy introduction here, even just an Easter egg, to have April's high school friend Casey be involved somehow or be in a shot.
Nah, I don't want a kid Casey.
But they are bringing in Shredder, obviously the post-credit tease here, or the
Yes.
mid-credit tease here for the second movie to essentially capture the Turtles. So I
Mhm.
do think that's probably where we see Casey Jones too.
Speaking of Shredder, I love that reveal. It's a good reveal.
Well, you knew it was coming.
Well, I wasn't sure if they were going to save him for the third one or not.
Oh, okay.
Because do you want to
Well,
get into this?
You get Super Shredder in the third one.
So first off, in the credits, before we get to the post credits, we get introducing Paul Rudd in the credits, and that made me laugh.
Yeah. Since I am a Turtles novice, I thought they just meant that Mondo Gecko was a new character and they were introducing that character on screen.
No, Paul Rudd, much like in Halloween 6, it said starring and introducing Paul Stephen Rudd. So after that after the credits, we get the mid credits or the post credit. I don't know what you want to call it, but Shredder is clearly being teased for next movie. And then my question would be, at the end of the next movie, do you tease Dimension X? So Maya Rudolph, who is kind of used sparingly in this movie, she is playing a character called Cynthia Ultron. Krang, the little brain inside the body there, his race of alien is an Ultron.
So do you think that Cynthia has a little Krang in her belly?
Yes, I do.
Okay. It's a nice little tidbit right there.
I think that she is Krang.
Okay. I enjoy that.
And I actually wouldn't mind, because I love Maya Rudolph and I think it'd be hilarious, is that she is the voice of Krang too.
The only thing I'll say to that is, shouldn't Krang be more scientifically advanced than Baxter Stockman?
No, but he might need Stockman for certain things. He might not be able to, use the mutagen as Stockman's been able to. And speaking of Stockman, we talked about a little bit earlier. I wanted more. Where is he?
Wasted.
Was he supposed to be the Fly at the end of the movie or during the movie? You have Giancarlo Esposito. He's perfect casting. Bring him back.
Yeah, that was a weird move for sure.
And then also, how do we extract Bebop and Rocksteady from the sewer? Which I didn't like that either. I didn't love all the mutants living in the sewer together. How do you get them away from them to Shredder?
So, right. I'm glad you brought this back up because I almost forgot. I fucking hated, and this is the one thing I did hate, that all of the mutants besides Superfly were good at the end.
Yeah.
Like, you could have let it be a little more ambiguous or have some more confusion amongst them. But now they're all just best friends.
Like have Bebop and Rocksteady stay with them, or have one of them stay with them.
Anything. Or like those two fight with Superfly, they get defeated at the end and they take off, and eventually Shredder corrals them for the next movie. Also, is Shredder standing on Ellis Island? Where the fuck was he for that shot?
Yeah, he just came from Europe.
He caught all the turtles in Europe. Now they had to bring him to America.
Now, I assume that they're not going to mess this up. Shredder will be Japanese.
I don't know. I wouldn't count on that.
I think he will. I mean, dude, Bay messed it up at first, and then he had to fix it. And then by fixing it, he completely fucked the movie.
I wouldn't count on it.
He's going to be Japanese. He is. They're not going to want to fuck with the fans with that.
Good enough.
But I really love this movie. I'm sorry. I was close to loving this movie. Okay. I was so close. I'm just a tick below 9 out of 10. I think what they did in this movie is you've reopened the door for more turtle movies. And I think it's as good as you could have gotten it with that PG rating, with this animation style. But also, you can get it a little bit better in the next one. You're setting up for something great in the next one, and you're going to have a pretty good trilogy. Yeah,
it's an enjoyable movie. Good intro. I think there's a very strong chance I would like the second movie more than this one. So we'll look forward to that one.
Oh, hi. It's Goo from the Mac and Goo Movie Club. If you like what you just saw, you can find full episodes of our program on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, CastBox, iHeartRadio, or wherever podcasts are found. And now it's time for girls jumping on trampolines.